Have you ever ordered a pair of speakers or maybe a subwoofer and you get it into your home and you're like, holy cow, I knew it was large, but I didn't know how large. So as you can see, we've got two sets of speakers that we're going to be comparing side by side in this video. And so here we have the taller, these are large and in charge. These are the Arendal Sound 1723 THX towers. Then on the outside, we've got the smaller brothers. So these are the Arendal Sound 1723S THX towers. And so in this video, I just want to physically show you the differences with them side by side so that you can see how do these compare. I'm 5'11", so we'll kind of use that as a gauge of how big these speakers are in comparison to my height. But what I want to do is I'll get these unboxed. I won't bore you with that because I've already unboxed these in a previous video, so I'll have that video linked down in the description below so you can check that out. But while I'm doing that, I want to give a big thanks to our Platinum channel sponsor, Arendal Sound. If you're looking to upgrade your subwoofers in your 2-channel or home theater system, Arendal Sound is offering an additional $100 off their globally recognized 1961 subwoofers. The 1961 subwoofers are being retired to make way for future products that are in the works. This offer is only available while supplies last, and as you can see here, the quantities are limited. Be sure to check out the link down in the description below to take advantage of this exclusive offer. So now I have the 1723 towers unboxed, and as you can see here, both of these are in the satin white finish. These are gorgeous, man. I love this finish on these speakers. Previously, when I reviewed the large towers, they were in the black satin, and although they look really, really nice, I just love this two-tone with the white and this dark black on the front. Just looks really, really sick. So as I mentioned, I'm 5'11", so you can see just in comparison how much different size-wise these speakers are. So what I want to do right now is go through just the differences in these two speakers, from the components to the ports to the width, depth, and all of that. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So the first thing that we'll take a look at are the differences in the woofers. So on the smaller Tower S, we've got 4 6.5-inch drivers, and on the larger towers, we have 4 8-inch drivers. Now the smaller towers have a sensitivity rating of 89 decibels with 1 watt, and the larger towers have a sensitivity of 92 decibels with 1 watt. Basically what that means is these taller towers, the larger ones will get louder, 3 decibels louder than the smaller ones will with the same amplification. Now the differences in frequency response actually surprised me a bit. The smaller ones are able to dig a little bit deeper in sealed mode at 49 Hz versus 55 Hz in the larger towers. But when you begin to open up some of the ports, that's when they reverse. So with one vent open, the smaller towers reach down to 39 Hz and the larger towers dig a little bit deeper at 34 Hz. And then with 2 vents open again, the smaller towers actually dig a little bit deeper at 35 Hz versus the larger towers at 38 Hz. Now if we look at the back of the speakers, the smaller towers have 2 rear ports and the larger tower have 3 ports. Now when it comes to power ratings, the smaller towers can handle up to 400 watts continuous and the larger towers at 500 watts continuous. Now looking at the dimensions, we've got 39.1 inches tall versus 45.7 inches tall. There's not a lot of difference in the width. We've got 9.6 inches wide versus 10.8 inches wide. And then for depth, we've got 12.6 inches versus 15.7 inches. Now when it comes to weight, there is a huge difference between these two. The smaller towers, the S, come in at 69 pounds, and then the larger towers come in at 111.6 pounds. These big boys are no joke trying to move them around your room. And as far as price difference, at the time of this video, the smaller S towers come in at $30.99 a pair, and the larger ones are $38.99 a pair. All right, so I'm getting ready to sit down and do some listening to the Arendal 1723 towers as well as the S towers. So what I've got connected to them is my Marantz AV7706 processor. So this does not have any internal amplification. I'm connecting from it to the 2 Outlaw Audio 2220 these are monoblock amplifiers. And so each one of those amplifiers is going to go to one speaker. They're going to get a ton of power. I did a review on those recently. Really, really solid amps. Go check out that video if you want to. But this is connected to the Outlaw Audio amps via XLR. Now, I'm not one of those guys that really feels that XLR sounds better than RCA. Honestly, it was just easier. I had XLR cables, really short, so that just made an easy connection. So with this setup, I'll be able to drive these without having to worry about going into distortion or not feeding them enough power. There's plenty of power in the monoblock amplifiers. And so I'm gonna sit down and listen to these. I'll start off with the short speakers, so that is the S speakers, and then I will move them out of the way, and then I'll put the towers. Now, when you're comparing two sets of speakers, it's really important that you listen to the speakers in the same exact location. You can't have one set here and another set kind of closer together and be able to switch back and forth, because that changes the way that it's interacting in the room because of your room acoustics. And so the way that I'm going to listen to these is I'll have the short towers, the S right here. You can see on the floor I've marked with tape. I've even put a line right where the emblem is, so I know where the center is. So I'm going to get them placed in the same exact position. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the other speakers that aren't being in use kind of out of the way behind this speaker, because I don't want any of the sound hitting the edge of the speaker. Like right here, this would be horrible. Actually, you can't see it, but I've got another speaker right next to it. So you don't want that sound to come out of this speaker and hit that and cause some reflections. That's just not ideal. So we're going to push these out of the way. Here you can see kind of how that format is going to look. And then once I've listened to one speaker for quite a while, I'll use a bunch of different types of music, different genres. I'll do some bass tracks. I'll do some acoustical. I love acoustical music. I'll listen to male vocals, female vocals, piano, all different types of things. And I'll just share with you my thoughts and my opinion on the way that these sound. Now, unfortunately, due to copyright, I can't play the music that I'm going to be listening to. And plus, I just have this microphone. It's not ideal. This is meant to be talking into. It's not even a stereo microphone. And so it wouldn't do you any good to hear that anyway. But I'm going to sit down, spend some time with both of these set of speakers and let you know my thoughts. All right, so I've spent about an hour listening to both sets of speakers. And as you can see, I've just put these back forward just because they look cooler. But originally these were facing, towards each other back here behind these speakers. And so here's kind of my initial impressions. I like the way these sound. These get plenty loud enough, especially for my 13 by 19 foot room, 10 foot ceilings, plenty loud enough for this room. Now they don't dig super, super deep. Most towers don't, unless you got big 10-inch or 12-inch drivers or 15-inch woofers in them. So they don't dig super, super low. But mid-range is beautiful. I really enjoyed vocals on these, especially ladies, like female vocals on these just really seem to shine. Clarity, detail, and like I said, I would get pretty loud. I'm pretty much topped out at about 100 dB on both of these. I really don't like to listen to it that loud most of the time, but I just wanted to push them a little bit to see how they performed. Now, when I would play a bass heavy track, something with a lot of bottom end, these I didn't feel a whole lot in my listening position. The seats didn't vibrate very much. I felt it just a little bit like in my legs, a little bit in the seats, but definitely nothing major. In order to get that, typically you're going to need some speakers that have big drivers like dual 10s or maybe even a 15-inch woofer to really pressurize the room. So these aren't going to do that in and of themselves. Now, in my room, the flooring in here is concrete. And so if you've got something like hardwood floors, these are going to allow you to experience more of that tactile bass, because that bass is going to resonate the floor and then that's going to transfer to your seats. But in here, I didn't feel a ton in my main listening position. But vocals were super, super clear, very pleasant. They weren't real forward sounding. They're not super bright. They just have a lot of detail. And I just really enjoyed my time with these little guys. So then I swapped them out. I moved the bigger ones into the same position as you can see on the floor. I put them right in the exact location, same toe in, same distance from the wall so that we're not getting more bass reinforcement from one versus the other. So with these, one thing I noticed is the sound just kind of opened up a little bit more. Now, one thing I think caused that is you'll notice the tweeter here is quite a bit lower than the tweeter here. And when I'm sitting down in my main listening position, this tweeter is firing, I don't know, somewhere about here, versus this tweeter is pretty much in line with my ears. And I actually like being really on axis with the tweeter. That's just my own personal preference. So I really like the towers, the large towers. These had just a beautiful full sound, got me excited. And of course I had to crank them up. You know, I put them about 100 dB and with some really bass heavy tracks. Neither one of these had any problem as far as it didn't sound like it was struggling, didn't sound like, you know, again, they just don't have a ton of bottom end. You're not going to get 20 hertz out of either one of these, but the bass that it does produce is really clean, really tight, and just overall, just a fun speaker. So again, I'm powering this with some really clean power, but I think you could, with the sensitivity of either one of these speakers, you could easily drive these off a standard AVR without having like dedicated monoblocks. But I just really wanted to provide them with everything that they would need to really shine. Now I do want to take both of these speakers out into my living room to see how they sound out there, because that's a totally different acoustic room. In this theater room, I've got this room acoustically treated. So as you can see on the side walls, I've got acoustic panels. We've got some absorption as well as some combo panels. So there's some reflection as well in here. But in my living room, it's a totally different environment. It's quite lively. There's a lot of hard surfaces, but I also have hardwood floors. And so I think I'm going to get a lot more tactile response out of these, but I'd love to bring them out there and have some fun with them there as well. Of course, I want to hook up a subwoofer to these as well and see how they open up with a subwoofer to provide that punch, that slam that I really love when I'm listening to music or listening or watching a movie. But I also even want to take the bigger towers and compare them to my Martin Logan F200s. And so I just think it'd be a fun little exercise. Again, this isn't scientific. This is just me bringing you along my journey in 2-channel and home theater. And hopefully it just provides some inspiration for you to do something really cool in your home. Now, of course, if you're interested in either one of these, the Tower S or the full towers, I'll have links for both of them down in the description below. You can check those out on their website. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you do that right now, because I've got lots of videos coming in the near future. Well guys, I hope you have an incredible week. God bless, and we will catch you in the next video.